I paid for my sister's wedding but wasn't invited because I didn't match the vibe. Her smug smile disappeared when the venue canceled last minute, and she learned why. The sting of betrayal sliced through me like a rusted blade, carving a wound that burned deeper with every heartbeat. At 32, I was a man forged in grit, my calloused hands a map of a life spent wrenching dreams from the grease and steel of my thriving motorcycle repair shop in Austin, Texas. My shop wasn't just a business, it was a cathedral of custom bikes, where the growl of engines roared with freedom and the sweat of relentless labor. I'd built a name that drew gearheads from across the state, their wallets heavy for my craftsmanship. But none of that mattered when I scrolled through Instagram one suffocating July evening in 2025, my world imploding as I stumbled upon a post that would shatter my trust. There it was, a glittering digital invitation dripping with elegance. Gold script danced over a backdrop of ivory lace announcing my younger sister's wedding. At 27, she was a rising star at a sleek downtown marketing firm, her life a curated gallery of corporate polish. The caption bubbled with joy. 1 month until I say I do, can't wait to share this magical day with my nearest and dearest. My thumb froze, my breath snagging. Nearest and dearest? My name was nowhere on that invite. My chest tightened, disbelief wrestling with a creeping dread. For 8 months, I'd poured thousands into her dream wedding, $10,000 for the venue deposit at a sprawling hill country estate, $5,000 for a gourmet catering spread, even $2,000 for the flowing designer gown she'd raved about but never showed me. Yet here I was, erased from her perfect day. At first, I clung to hope. Maybe it was a glitch. Maybe my invite was lost in the mail, tangled in the chaos of her planning. I fired off a text, keeping it light. "Hey, saw your post. Did my invite get lost?" I stared at my phone, the silence stretching like a taut wire. An hour crawled by, then 2. The Texas sunset bled orange across the sky and still no reply. By 11:07 p.m., my phone buzzed with a message that hit like a sledgehammer. "Hey, I was gonna call you. It's tough, but we had to keep the guest list tight. It's a super curated vibe. Elegant, you know? You're not really the type. No offense, I know you'll cheer me on from afar. Love you." Curated vibe. Not the type. The words seared into my brain, each one a fresh wound. I wasn't like my sister's polished posse, her corporate friends with their tailored suits, manicured nails, and fake chuckles over artisanal cocktails. I was a guy with motor oil under my nails, my flannel shirts dusted with garage grime. My shop raked in 6 figures a year, enough to bankroll her lavish plans, but to her I was just a grease-stained wrench-turner, a smudge she'd rather hide than celebrate. The truth gutted me. I'd financed her fairy tale wedding, only to be deemed unworthy of a seat at the table. I slumped onto my worn leather couch, the hum of cicadas outside my apartment window a mocking chorus. I replayed the past year, each memory a shard of glass. My sister's teary plea at a family barbecue last fall. "Weddings are insane. If you want it to be special, you gotta pay big." I'd chuckled, wired the venue deposit without blinking, and told myself it was for family. When her fiancé, a smug tech bro with a flashy car, came up short on the catering, I covered that too. I'd even tossed in extra for the dress, picturing her radiant smile as she walked down the aisle. Now that generosity felt like a noose. She'd taken my money, my blood, sweat, and sleepless nights, and still had the gall to banish me from her elegant day. The betrayal wasn't new, though. I'd always been the black sheep in the family. My parents, retired accountants obsessed with appearances, worshipped my sister's corporate climb, her corner office a badge of their success. My shop. To them, it was a gritty side hustle, not a real business. At family dinners, they'd beam as she spun tales of client pitches and promotions, but when I mentioned landing a contract to restore a vintage Harley for a local celebrity, they'd nod politely and change the subject. My sister was worse. She'd roll her eyes when I showed up in my work boots, her nose wrinkling like I'd tracked mud into her pristine world. "You smell like a gas station," she'd quip, her friends tittering behind their wine glasses. That night, sleep eluded me. I paced my apartment, the sting of her words, not the curated vibe, looping like a cruel refrain. I wasn't just uninvited, I was unwanted, a stain on her Instagram perfect aesthetic. But beneath the hurt, a spark of anger flared. I wasn't a pushover. I'd built my shop from nothing, taught myself to weld at 19, and turned a rundown garage into a local legend. I'd earned every dollar, every scar, every ounce of respect I commanded. Yet my own sister saw me as less than a dirty secret to be tucked away while she cashed my checks. By dawn, the anger had hardened into resolve. I wasn't letting this slide. I grabbed my phone and opened my bank app, eyeing the pending transfers for her wedding vendors. My finger hovered over the cancel button. I wasn't petty, but this wasn't about revenge. It was about respect. If she wanted a wedding without me, she could damn well pay for it herself. I typed a text, my jaw tight. Since I don't fit your vibe, I'm out on the wedding funds. You'll figure it out. Best of luck. I hit send, my heart pounding. The line was drawn. Minutes later, my phone erupted. My sister's name flashed across the screen, call after call, each one ignored. Voicemails piled up, her voice shrill. What the hell? You can't do this. The cake's due Friday? My mom chimed in next, her text dripping with guilt. Sweetheart, don't be spiteful. Let's talk this out. My dad's message was curt. We raised you better. I shook my head, a bitter laugh escaping. Not one apology, not one shred of accountability, just demands, as if I owed them my soul because I dared to say no. I roared to my shop on my Harley, the engine's rumble calming my nerves. The shop was my sanctuary, its concrete floors and gleaming tools a testament to my grit. My lead mechanic, a burly 40-year-old with a quick grin, clocked my mood instantly. Boss, you look like you're about to punch a wall. What's up? I hesitated, then spilled the story, the snub, the money, the curated vibe. He whistled low. Man, that's cold. Your own sister? I'd cut him off too. I nodded, but the weight lingered. Family was supposed to be sacred, wasn't it? Yet mine had treated me like a cash machine, discarding me the moment my presence threatened their image. As the day wore on, my phone buzzed with more texts. My sister's best friend, a haughty influencer with a penchant for drama, slid into my DMs. You're really screwing over her big day. Not cool. I ignored her. Then came a message from my cousin, a laid-back bartender who'd always had my back. Dude, heard about the wedding mess. She's freaking out. You good? I replied, done being their doormat. They made their bed. He sent back a fist bump emoji. Respect. By evening, my resolve was ironclad. I wasn't just pulling the plug on the wedding funds. I was rewriting the rules of my relationship with my family. For years, I'd played the dutiful son, the generous brother, swallowing their slights to keep the peace. No more. My sister's wedding was her problem now, and I was ready to watch her perfect world crack under the weight of her own choices. But deep down, a flicker of doubt gnawed at me. Would I regret this? Could I really walk away from the family I'd spent my life trying to please? As I locked up the shop, the Texas stars blazing above, I knew one thing for certain. This was only the beginning. The betrayal festered like a splinter lodged deep in my soul, its poison seeping into every quiet moment. My sister's words, not the curated vibe, echoed relentlessly, a cruel anthem that stripped away the illusion of family I'd clung to for years. At 32, I was no stranger to hard truths. I'd built my motorcycle repair shop in Austin, Texas, from a crumbling shed into a roaring empire, my hands scarred from years of wrestling steel and fire. My shop was my fortress, a place where the growl of custom bikes drowned out the world's noise. But as I stood in its familiar chaos the morning after her text, the weight of her rejection pressed heavier than any engine I'd ever hauled. I wasn't just uninvited to her wedding. I was cast out of her world, a world I'd bankrolled with my sweat and sacrifice. I leaned against a workbench, the scent of oil and metal grounding me as I replayed the past. The signs had always been there, subtle jabs that cut deeper with time. Growing up, I was the kid who'd rather tinker with a busted dirt bike than study for algebra. My parents, both accountants with a fetish for propriety, saw my grease-stained jeans as a rebellion, not a passion. They'd lecture me about real careers while pinning their hopes on my sister, 5 years my junior, who dazzled them with her straight-A report cards and pageant queen smile. By the time I was 19, I'd dropped out of community college to apprentice at a garage, a choice that earned me their silent disappointment. "You could have been something," my mom would sigh, as if my dreams were a stain on their legacy. My sisters soaked up their pride like a sponge. She was their golden child, gliding through college on a marketing degree and landing a cushy job at a downtown firm. Her life was a glossy Instagram reel, brunches with influencers, networking events in stilettos, a fiancé who oozed tech bro charm. I didn't resent her success. I was proud even. But her ascent came with a price. The higher she climbed, the more she looked down on me. At family gatherings, she'd introduce me with a dismissive wave. "My brother, he works on bikes." Her friends would nod, their smiles thin, as if I was a curiosity, not a man who'd built a business that cleared more profit than most of their desk jobs. The wedding was just the latest chapter in a story of slights. Last Christmas, I'd shown up to my parents' house straight from the shop, still in my work flannel, to find my sister hosting a casual chic dinner for her corporate clique. She'd pulled me aside, her voice syrupy but sharp. "Could you maybe change? You're kind of grimy." I'd laughed it off, but the sting lingered. Later, I overheard her friend whisper, "Her brother's like a total grease monkey, right?" My sister didn't correct her, she just giggled. That moment stuck, a quiet betrayal that festered beneath my skin. But I never said no when they needed me. When my parents' roof leaked 2 years ago, I paid for the repairs. When my sister's car broke down during her first year at the firm, I fixed it for free and covered her insurance for 6 months. And when she announced her engagement, her eyes sparkling with visions of a Pinterest-perfect wedding, I didn't hesitate to step up. "It's going to be expensive," she'd whined over beers at a family cookout, swirling her IPA like a diva. "You wouldn't get it, but quality costs." I'd smirked, half joking. "Easy for you to say when I'm footing the bill." She'd rolled her eyes, but the next week she texted me a Venmo request for the venue deposit. I sent it, no questions asked, telling myself it was for family. Now, as I stood in my shop, the memory of that transaction burned. I'd wired $10,000 without a second thought, followed by $5,000 for catering and $2,000 for her gown. I didn't ask for thanks. I just wanted her to have the day she dreamed of. But she'd taken my money and spit in my face, curating me out of her elegant world like I was a smudge on her vision board. The audacity of it, the sheer brazen entitlement, lit a fire in my gut. I wasn't just hurt, I was done. I needed clarity, so I drove to my parents' house unannounced, the Austin suburbs blurring past my Harley's rumble. I didn't call ahead. I wanted their raw, unfiltered truth. As I parked in their driveway, the familiar ranch-style house loomed like a museum of my childhood. Neatly trimmed hedges, a flagpole with a faded stars and stripes, and the faint hum of NPR from the kitchen radio. I slipped through the side door, my boots quiet on the hardwood, and caught their voices mid-conversation. "It's a delicate situation," my mom was saying, her tone pinched with that familiar mix of pity and judgment. "He's just not like her crowd." My sister's voice cut in, sharp and unapologetic. "Exactly. I can't have him showing up looking like he just rolled out of a junkyard. It's my wedding, Mom. It's supposed to be perfect." I froze, my hand on the doorframe. My dad's voice mumbled, half-hearted, "He's family, though." "Family doesn't mean he fits," my sister snapped. "You know how he is, always in those filthy clothes, talking about engines like anyone cares. People will stare. It'll throw off the whole vibe." My jaw clenched, the air in my lungs turning to lead. I pushed the door open, stepping into the kitchen. My sister's face drained of color, her coffee mug trembling in her hand. My mom busied herself wiping an already clean counter, avoiding my eyes. My dad just stared at his newspaper as if he could will himself invisible. "So that's how you see me," I said, my voice low but steady, a coiled spring ready to snap. My sister recovered quickly, straightening her shoulders. "Don't make this a thing. It's not personal, it's just not your scene." "My scene?" I echoed, crossing my arms. "What's that supposed to mean?" She huffed, tossing her hair. "Come on. Everyone there is like professionals, lawyers, execs, people who network. You're, different. You don't have anything in common with them. Because I don't push paper in an office, I'm what? Too dumb to talk to your fancy friends?" My voice stayed calm, but the edge was sharp enough to cut. "I didn't say that," she said, too fast, her cheeks flushing. My mom jumped in, her voice soft but condescending. "Sweetheart, it's a different kind of event. You do come off a bit rough. Those work clothes, the way you carry yourself. It's not what her guests expect." I laughed, a cold, bitter sound. "I own a business. I make more money than half those professionals you're inviting. But because I don't wear a suit, I'm not good enough?" My sister groaned, exasperated. "It's not about money. It's about image. Look, you helped a ton with the wedding, and I'm grateful, but this is my day. I need it to be perfect. You just don't fit." There it was, the truth, raw and unvarnished. It didn't matter that I'd bailed her out when she overspent her credit cards, or that I'd covered her fiancé's share when he forgot to chip in. To them, I was the dirty mechanic, a walking embarrassment. I exhaled slowly, nodding. "Got it." "Oh, don't be dramatic," my mom interjected, her voice cloying. "We'll have a nice family dinner after the honeymoon, just us. That's more your style." I smiled, but it was sharp, not kind. "You're right. In my style, when someone helps you, you don't spit in their face." I grabbed my keys and walked out, their protests fading behind me. Back at the shop, my phone buzzed with a text from my sister. "Don't make this a big deal, okay? You know I love you. BTW, the cake payment's due Friday." "So?" I stared at it, a laugh ripping out of me so hard I doubled over. She really thought I'd keep paying, that I'd swallow my pride like always. She had no idea I was done. I texted back, "Sorry, wouldn't want to embarrass you by funding your wedding. Figure it out. Good luck." No emojis, no warmth, just clarity. Within minutes, my phone lit up with calls, her, my mom, my dad. I let them go to voicemail, their voices a frantic chorus of entitlement. "You can't back out now," my sister screeched. "We're counting on you," my mom pleaded. "This isn't how family works," my dad grumbled. Not one "I'm sorry," just expectations as if I was born to serve them. I confided in my lead mechanic, a grizzled 40-year-old with a heart as big as his wrench. "They think I'm their ATM," I said, tossing a rag onto the workbench. He shook his head. "Family's supposed to lift you up, not bleed you dry. You did right, boss." His words steadied me, but the ache lingered. I'd spent years proving myself, to my family, to the world, only to be reduced to a stereotype. By nightfall, the texts kept coming. My sister's best friend, a wannabe influencer with a fake tan, DM'd me, "You're ruining her dream day. Classy move." I ignored her. My cousin, a bartender with a knack for cutting through BS, texted, "Heard you pulled the plug. She's spiraling. You okay?" I replied, done being their punching bag. They chose this. He sent a thumbs up. "Proud of you." As I locked up the shop, the Texas sky ablaze with stars, my resolve hardened. I wasn't just cutting off the money, I was cutting the chains of their disrespect. But a shadow of doubt crept in. Was I too harsh? Could I live with the fallout? The road ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear. I was done bowing to their demands. My sister's perfect wedding was about to crumble, and I'd be watching from the sidelines, my heart torn between justice and regret. The fire in my gut burned hotter with each passing hour. a molten core of resolve forged from my sister's betrayal. Her words, not the curated vibe, had sliced through years of loyalty, exposing the raw truth. I was nothing more than a wallet to her, a dirty-handed mechanic to be used and discarded. At 32, I'd built my motorcycle repair shop in Austin, Texas, into a roaring testament to my grit, its custom bikes a siren call to clients across the state. But as I stood in the shop's familiar chaos, the hum of tools and the tang of oil my only comfort, the weight of her rejection pressed down like a hydraulic press. I'd poured thousands into her dream wedding, $10,000 for the venue, $5,000 for catering, $2,000 for her gown, only to be told I didn't belong in her polished world. Now I'd drawn a line, no more money, no more bending, and my family's reaction only proved I'd been right to stand my ground. The morning after I texted my sister I was done funding her wedding, my phone became a battlefield. Her calls came first, relentless, each voicemail sharper than the last. "You can't do this," she shrieked in one, her voice cracking with panic. "The cake's due tomorrow, you promised." My mom's texts followed, cloaked in manipulative guilt. "Sweetheart, you're breaking her heart. Let's fix this." My dad's were blunt. "As always, this isn't how we raised you. Step up." I stared at the screen, my jaw tight, a bitter laugh clawing its way out. Not one of them said sorry. Not one acknowledged the knife they'd driven into my back by excluding me from the wedding I'd bankrolled. They just expected me to cave, to play the dutiful brother who always said yes, no matter how they treated me. I silenced my phone and threw myself into work, wrenching a vintage Harley's engine with a ferocity that made my lead mechanic raise an eyebrow. He was a burly 40-year-old with a quick grin and a knack for reading me like a blueprint. "They still hounding you, boss?" he asked, wiping his hands on a rag. I nodded, tossing a spark plug onto the bench. "They think I'll crack like I always do." He snorted. "Let 'em squirm. You've been their cash cow too long." His words hit home. For years I'd been the family's safety net, bailing them out of car repairs, home fixes, and now a wedding they couldn't afford. I'd convinced myself it was my duty, that family meant sacrifice. But sacrifice went both ways, and all I'd gotten in return was disdain. By noon, the texts escalated. My sister's best friend, a self-proclaimed influencer with a voice like nails on a chalkboard, DM'd me. "You're destroying her big day, real mature." I rolled my eyes and blocked her. Then my cousin, a bartender with a heart of gold and a no-nonsense streak, sent a message. "Heard you told him to shove it. She's freaking out at the bakery. You holding up?" I smirked, typing back, "I'm good." They dug their own grave. He replied with a fire emoji. "Burn it down, man." His support was a lifeline, a reminder that not everyone saw me as a grease-stained embarrassment. But the real test came that evening when I found myself face-to-face with my sister. She'd called again, her voice softer this time, laced with a fake calm that set my teeth on edge. "Can we talk? Please? Just coffee?" I should have said no, but curiosity and maybe a flicker of hope got the better of me. I agreed to meet at a hipster cafe downtown, its exposed brick and overpriced lattes screaming her aesthetic. When I walked in, she was already there, tapping her manicured nails on a ceramic mug, her eyes darting nervously. She looked smaller somehow, her usual confidence frayed at the edges. I slid into the seat across from her, my work boots scuffing the polished floor. "Hey," she said, forcing a smile. "Thanks for coming." I nodded, my face a blank slate. "What's this about?" She sighed, dramatic as ever, twirling a strand of hair. "I hate how things are between us. I didn't mean for it to get this messy." Her voice was syrupy, but I wasn't buying it. I leaned back, crossing my arms. "Messy how? You mean me finding out I'm not invited to the wedding I paid for?" Her cheeks flushed, but she pressed on. "It's not like that. I wanted everything to be perfect, you know. The guest list had to match the vibe. It's a high-end event. Lawyers, CEOs, people from my world. She hesitated, searching for words that wouldn't ignite me. She failed. You're different. It's not personal. I laughed, a cold, sharp sound that made her flinch. Not personal. You took my money, my blood, sweat and tears, and then told me I'm not good enough to sit with your fancy friends. That's as personal as it gets. She bristled, her mask slipping. I never said you weren't good enough. God, why are you so sensitive? I thought you'd understand. You're always so practical. Practical, I echoed, my voice low and dangerous. You mean the guy who bailed you out when you maxed your credit cards? Who fixed your car for free? Who paid for half your damn wedding because you and your fiancé couldn't? That kind of practical? Her eyes darted away, guilt flickering before she doubled down. Okay, fine, you helped, and I'm grateful. But this is my day. I get to decide who's there. You can't hold the money over my head like some martyr. I leaned forward, my voice steady but laced with steel. I'm not holding anything over you. I'm done. You wanted a wedding without me? You got it. But you don't get my money and my dignity. Pick one. Her jaw dropped as if I'd slapped her. You're really doing this? You're gonna let my wedding fall apart because of a stupid invite? I stood, my chair scraping the floor. It's not about the invite. It's about you using me for years, taking everything I've got and still treating me like dirt. Enjoy your wedding. You'll figure it out. I walked out, her stunned silence trailing behind me. The next day, the fallout intensified. My parents descended like vultures, their calls and texts a barrage of guilt and outrage. My mom showed up at the shop unannounced, her purse clutched like a shield as she navigated the greasy chaos of my domain. She looked out of place, her pressed blouse and pearl earrings screaming suburbia. I wiped my hands on a rag and led her to my office, a cramped room stacked with invoices and bike parts. She sat, her posture rigid, and fixed me with a look that could curdle milk. Your sister's in trouble, she said, her voice tight. The bakery won't release the cake without the final payment. The venue's threatening to cancel. She can't cover it. I leaned back in my chair, unfazed. Sounds rough. She blinked, thrown by my calm. You have the money. You could fix this in a heartbeat. Why are you being so stubborn? I gave her a slow, deliberate smile. Stubborn? You mean like how she planned her guest list without me? Funny how that works. Her nostrils flared. This is different. You agreed to pay. She built her plans around it. You can't just pull out now. Sure I can, I said, my voice even. She made a choice to cut me out. I made mine. She doesn't need my money if I'm not good enough to be there. She rubbed her temples, exasperation seeping through. For God's sake, stop being petty. She deserves a beautiful wedding. If you let this fall apart, people will talk. She'll be humiliated. I laughed, the sound echoing off the cinder block walls. That's the real issue, isn't it? The optics. Not that you all treated me like garbage, just that she might look bad. Her face hardened. She's your sister. Family helps family. Funny, I shot back, my patience snapping. I don't remember any of you helping me when I was starting this shop, working 16-hour days, scraping by to make it work, or when I paid for her wedding while you all looked the other way. Family helps family? Where was that when I needed it? Silence. She stared at me, her lips a thin line, then stood, smoothing her blouse. You'll regret this. She left without another word, and for the first time I felt nothing but relief. The cracks in my sister's perfect wedding began to show. She posted a cryptic Instagram story. When people let you down, you learn who really matters. I ignored it. My cousin texted, she's begging friends for loans. It's a mess. You sure about this? I replied, never been surer. The shop became my refuge, its rhythm of clanging metal and revving engines drowning out the noise. But late at night, alone in my apartment, doubt crept in. Was I too harsh? Would I miss them when the dust settled? I pushed it down. They'd made their bed, and I wasn't climbing in with them. By the week's end, my sister tried one last play. She texted, if I invite you now, will you pay? I stared at the screen, a hollow laugh escaping. She thought she could bribe me with a pity invite, as if my pride was that cheap. I didn't reply. The wedding was her problem now, and I was done carrying her weight. But as I locked up the shop, the Texas night thick with heat, a storm was brewing. My family wasn't done fighting, and I knew the worst was yet to come. The air in Austin crackled with tension as my sister's wedding day loomed, a ticking bomb I'd defused by yanking my financial support. Her betrayal, excluding me from the wedding I'd bankrolled with $17,000 of my hard-earned cash, had hardened my heart into stone. At 32, I was no stranger to sacrifice, my motorcycle repair shop a testament to years of sweat, scars, and relentless hustle. Its custom bikes drew clients from across Texas, their wallets open for my craftsmanship, but to my family I was just a grease-stained mechanic, unfit for my sister's curated world. Now, with the venue deposit, catering, and gown payments I'd covered hanging in the balance, I'd said no more. My phone buzzed with their desperate pleas, but I was done being their ATM. As the wedding approached, I braced for the fallout, knowing the perfect facade my sister had built was about to crumble. The days after my coffee shop showdown with her were a storm of manipulation. She'd tried to play the victim, offering a last-minute invite to bribe me into paying again. "If I invite you now, will you help?" I'd left her text unanswered, its audacity fueling my resolve. My parents piled on, their messages a blend of guilt and indignation. My mom's voicemails dripped with melodrama. "You're tearing this family apart over a misunderstanding." My dad's texts were clipped. "Fix this, or you're no son of mine." I deleted them all, my jaw tight. Not one apology, not one hint they saw the wound they'd inflicted by deeming me unworthy of the wedding I'd funded. They thought I'd crack, that I'd cave to their pressure like I always had. They were wrong. At my shop, the rhythm of clanging wrenches and roaring engines was my sanctuary. My lead mechanic, a grizzled 40-year-old with a heart as big as his biceps, kept me grounded. "They still begging, boss?" he asked, tossing a rag over his shoulder. I nodded, tightening a bolt with more force than necessary. "They think I'll bail them out, not this time." He grinned, his eyes glinting with approval. "Good. Let 'em sweat. You've carried them long enough." His words were a balm, but the ache of betrayal lingered. I'd spent years proving myself, to my family, to the world, only to be reduced to a stereotype they could discard. The cracks in my sister's wedding plans began to show publicly. Her Instagram, usually a shrine to her polished life, grew erratic. A vague post appeared. "Life tests you when you least expect it. Grateful for those who show up." I snorted, recognizing the jab. My cousin, a bartender with a knack for cutting through drama, texted me. "She's scrambling. Venmo'd her friends for cake money. It's pathetic. You good?" I replied, "Better than ever. Let her crash." He sent a laughing emoji. "Cold, man, I love it." His support anchored me, a reminder that not everyone saw me as the family's dirty secret. By the weekend, the situation spiraled. My sister's best friend, the influencer with a voice like a buzzsaw, posted a story. "When family betrays you, you find out who's real." Wedding woes. I ignored it, but the gossip reached my shop. A regular client, a burly biker with a soft spot for my work, clapped me on the shoulder. "Heard your sister's wedding's a shit show. You really pulled the plug." I nodded, keeping it brief. "She didn't want me there. So I'm out." He whistled, impressed. Ballsy. Respect. The validation felt good, but it didn't erase the gnawing question. Was I pushing too far? The answer came 3 days before the wedding, when my mom showed up at the shop again. She stormed in, her heels clicking like gunfire on the concrete floor, her face a mask of barely contained fury. My employees exchanged glances, sensing the storm. I led her to my office, closing the door to shield us from curious ears. She didn't sit this time, pacing like a caged animal, her purse swinging wildly. "You've gone too far," she snapped, her voice trembling with rage. "The venue's canceling. The florist won't deliver. The cake's gone. Your sister's a wreck, and it's your fault. I leaned against my desk, arms crossed, my calm a deliberate contrast to her frenzy. My fault. She's the one who decided I wasn't good enough to be there. I'm just following her lead. She threw her hands up. You're punishing her for a guest list. Grow up. You agreed to pay. She planned everything around that. You can't just walk away. I tilted my head, my voice low and sharp. Can't I? She walked away from me first, took my money, smiled to my face, then told me I'd ruin her vibe. You think I'm going to keep funding that? Her eyes narrowed, a flicker of desperation breaking through. She's your sister. She's humiliated. People are talking. Her friends, her co-workers. If this wedding falls apart, it'll haunt her. I laughed, the sound cold and hollow. That's what you're worried about? Her image? Not that you all treated me like garbage? Not that I've been bailing this family out for years while you look down on me. She faltered, her righteous anger wavering. We've always appreciated you. Bullshit. I cut in, my patience gone. You appreciated my wallet. When I was starting this shop, working 16-hour days, did you ever once say you were proud? When I paid for your roof, her car, half her damn wedding, did you ever thank me? You just nodded and moved on like I owed you. Her lips parted, but no words came. I pressed on, the dam breaking. I built this business from nothing. I earn more than most of her fancy friends. But to you, I'm just the guy with dirty hands. The embarrassment you hide when company comes. I'm done with it. She stared at me, her face a mix of shock and resentment. Finally, she straightened, clutching her purse like a lifeline. You're making a mistake. You'll regret this when you're alone. She turned on her heel and left, the door slamming behind her. Her words stung, but they didn't sway me. Alone. I'd been alone in this family for years, the odd man out while they fawned over my sister's corporate glow. If standing up for myself meant losing them, so be it. I threw myself back into work, the shop's chaos a welcome distraction. But late at night, in the quiet of my apartment, doubt crept in. What if I was wrong? What if this broke us beyond repair? I pushed it down, focusing on the truth. They'd chosen this path, not me. The wedding day arrived, and I woke with a strange lightness. For the first time in years, I wasn't burdened by their expectations. No frantic calls to fix last-minute crises, no demands to cover extra costs. I wasn't invited, so I owed them nothing. I spent the morning at the shop tuning a client's chopper, the roar of its engine a middle finger to their drama. But by noon, my phone lit up with the first signs of disaster. My cousin texted, "Bro, it's bad. Venue locked them out. Guests are standing in the parking lot, confused as hell." I stared at the screen, a grim satisfaction settling in. The Hill Country estate, the one I'd secured with my deposit, had canceled when my sister failed to pay the final balance. The staff had barred the doors, leaving her in her gown, her guests in suits and cocktail dresses, milling outside like lost sheep. The 5-tier cake I'd refused to fund, never delivered. The floral arrangements, scrapped. Her high-end wedding, the one she'd bragged about for months, was imploding. At 1:15 p.m., she called. I hesitated, then answered, my voice flat. "What? Are you happy now?" she screamed, her voice raw with hysteria. "It's ruined. Everything's gone." I leaned back in my chair, unmoved. "Didn't have the money?" "You know we didn't," she shrieked. "You were supposed to help. You promised." I chuckled, the sound colder than I intended. "No, you assumed. Big difference." Silence, then a sob. "You let me fail," she whispered, her voice breaking. "No," I corrected, my tone steady. "You failed. You took my money, used me for years, then told me I wasn't good enough to be there. You did this." "I didn't mean it like that," she mumbled, but the fight was gone from her. "You never do," I said, my voice ice. "That's the problem." I hung up, my heart pounding but my conscience clear. The wedding limped on, relocated to a relative's backyard in a last-minute scramble. No gourmet catering, no lavish decor, just folding chairs and a potluck thrown together by desperate aunts. My sister, I heard, spent the night fighting tears, her dream day reduced to a humiliating patchwork. I didn't gloat, but I didn't reach out either. She'd built her castle on my back, and when I stepped away, it collapsed. That was on her. Back at the shop, my crew rallied around me. My lead mechanic slapped my back. "Heard the wedding tanked. You're a legend, boss." Even clients chimed in, their gruff respect a stark contrast to my family's scorn. But as I locked up that night, the Texas stars blazing above, a quiet ache surfaced. I'd won this round, but at what cost? My family was in chaos, and I was the one who'd pulled the pin. The road ahead was uncertain, but I knew one thing: I wasn't turning back. They'd learn to live without my money, or they'd learn to live without me. The dust of my sister's wedding disaster settled like ash over Austin, but I stood taller in its wake, unburdened by the chains of family obligation. Her betrayal, excluding me from the wedding I'd funded with $17,000 of my blood, sweat, and tears, had been a brutal awakening. At 32, I was a man carved from resilience, my motorcycle repair shop a roaring monument to my hustle. Its custom bikes drew gearheads from across Texas, their wallets open for my craft. But to my family, I was just a grease-stained mechanic, unfit for my sister's polished world. I'd pulled the plug on her wedding funds, letting her curated dream collapse under the weight of her entitlement. The venue had locked her out, the cake never arrived, and her high-end plans crumbled into a humiliating backyard scramble. Now, as the fallout rippled through our family, I faced the final test. Could I hold the line, or would their guilt and anger pull me back into their orbit? The days after the wedding were eerily quiet, a calm before the inevitable storm. I'd expected a barrage of calls, screaming voicemails, tearful pleas, maybe even threats disguised as "you'll regret this." But my phone stayed silent, and that silence spoke louder than any tantrum. My family wasn't licking their wounds. They were scrambling, piecing together the wreckage of my sister's ruined day, realizing I wasn't coming to save them. At my shop, the rhythm of clanging wrenches and revving engines kept me grounded. My lead mechanic, a burly 40-year-old with a grin that could diffuse any tension, sensed my unease. "They ghosting you, boss?" he asked, tossing a spark plug between his hands. I shrugged, wiping oil from my fingers. "For now, bet they're just regrouping." He chuckled. "Let 'em. You're free, man. Feels good, don't it?" He was right. For the first time in years, I wasn't carrying their weight, and the lightness was intoxicating. But freedom came with shadows. Late at night, in the quiet of my apartment, doubt crept in like a thief. Had I gone too far? Would I wake up one day, years from now, regretting the chasm I'd carved between us? I'd spent my life proving myself, to my family, to the world, only to be cast aside. Standing up for myself felt right, but it left me on a lonely precipice. My cousin, a bartender with a knack for cutting through bullshit, texted me a week after the wedding. "Heard your sis is still crying to anyone who'll listen. Parents are pissed, but they're scared to push you. You okay?" I replied, "I'm good. Just figuring out what's next." He sent a beer emoji. "You're a badass. Keep 'em shook." His words steadied me, a reminder that I wasn't alone, even if my immediate family had turned their backs. The first crack in their silence came 2 weeks later, when my mom showed up at the shop again. She didn't storm in this time. She hesitated at the entrance, her posture softer, her eyes wary. I was under a chopper, tweaking its exhaust, when I spotted her. I slid out, wiping my hands on a rag, and gestured to my office. She followed, her steps tentative like she was walking into a lion's den. Inside she sat, clutching her purse, her face a mix of exhaustion and calculation. "I've been thinking about what you said," she began, her voice low. "Maybe we didn't handle things right, but you didn't either. You hurt her, you know. That wedding was her dream." I leaned back in my chair, my expression unyielding. "Her dream? I paid for half of it. And she thanked me by telling me I'd ruin her vibe. You backed her up. Where's my apology? She flinched, her fingers tightening on her purse. I'm trying to make peace. We're family. We don't throw each other away. I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. Family? You threw me away years ago. Every time you rolled your eyes at my job, every time you praised her while ignoring me, every time you took my money and acted like it was nothing, you don't get to play the family card now. Her eyes glistened, but I didn't soften. We didn't mean to make you feel that way, she said, her voice trembling. We're proud of you. We don't understand your world. My world? I echoed, leaning forward. I built a business from scratch. I employ people, pay their bills, keep this city's bikes roaring. I make more than most of her corporate buddies. But to you, I'm just the guy with dirty hands. That's on you, not me. She opened her mouth, then closed it, her shoulders slumping. What do you want from us? She asked, almost a whisper. Respect, I said simply. Not my money, not my guilt, just respect. Until you can give me that, we've got nothing to talk about. She stared at me, her face unreadable, then stood. I hope you change your mind, she said, and left. I exhaled, the tension draining from my body. It wasn't the closure I'd hoped for, but it was a start. She'd come to me, not the other way around. That was power I hadn't felt before. My sister, though, was a different story. She didn't reach out directly, but her passive-aggressive Instagram posts kept coming. One showed her in her wedding dress, captioned, "Some people break your heart, but you shine anyway." I rolled my eyes, tempted to comment, "Shine brighter without my cash." Instead, I unfollowed her, a small act that felt like cutting a chain. My cousin filled me in on the gossip. She was spinning herself as the victim, telling friends I'd sabotaged her wedding out of jealousy. Her fiancé, the tech bro, had even cornered a mutual friend at a bar, ranting about how I'd screwed them over. I laughed when I heard. They'd built their fairy tale on my back, and now they were shocked it had collapsed. The shop became my refuge, its chaos a balm for the family drama. My crew rallied around me, their loyalty a stark contrast to my family's betrayal. My lead mechanic organized a barbecue at his place, inviting the whole team. Over beers and brisket, they toasted me. To the boss, who finally told his family to kick rocks. I grinned, the warmth of their support filling a void I hadn't realized was there. Clients, too, caught wind of the story. A grizzled biker whose Harley I'd restored clapped my shoulder. "Heard you stuck it to your sister. Good for you, man. Family don't get a free pass to shit on you." His words hit deep, a reminder that respect wasn't owed, it was earned. Months passed, and the family dynamic shifted. My parents stopped pushing, their calls dwindling to occasional texts about mundane things. "Saw a nice bike on the road, thought of you." I replied politely but kept my distance, wary of their motives. My sister, though, remained a ghost. No apology, no outreach, just silence. I heard through my cousin she'd taken a second job to pay off wedding debts, her corporate glow dimmed by the reality check I'd delivered. Part of me felt a twinge of pity, but it faded fast. She'd chosen to use me to take my money while sneering at my life. Actions had consequences, and she was learning that the hard way. A year later, I stood in my shop, now expanded with a new bay for custom paint jobs, a dream I'd put off to fund my family's needs. The business was thriving, my crew tighter than ever, my name a staple in Austin's biking scene. I'd started mentoring at-risk kids, teaching them to wrench, giving them the purpose I'd found in grease and steel. My life felt full, not in spite of my family's absence, but because of it. I'd shed their expectations, their disdain, and found a freedom I hadn't known I was missing. My parents reached out occasionally, their tone cautious like they were handling dynamite. They invited me to a quiet dinner, just the three of us, no mention of my sister. I went curious but guarded. They didn't bring up the wedding, but I saw it in their eyes, the unspoken acknowledgement that they'd misjudged me. My mom even complimented the shop, a first. "It's impressive what you've built," she said, almost shyly. I nodded, not trusting the warmth, but noting it. They were learning slowly that I wasn't the pushover they'd counted on. If they wanted me in their lives, it'd be on my terms. My sister never apologized, but she never asked for money again. I heard she'd moved to Dallas, chasing a promotion, her social media now a mix of work wins and forced smiles. I didn't wish her ill, but I didn't miss her either. She'd been a lesson, a painful one, about boundaries and self-worth. I'd given too much for too long, but no more. Every dollar I earned now was mine, every victory a brick in the life I was building, free from their shadow. As I locked up the shop one evening, the Texas sunset painting the sky in fire, I felt a quiet pride. I'd faced their betrayal, their entitlement, and come out stronger. The road hadn't been easy, but it was mine, paved with my choices, my courage. I climbed onto my Harley, its engine roaring to life, and rode into the night, the weight of their judgment gone, replaced by a truth I'd fought for. I was enough. And that's the story of how I reclaimed my worth, turning betrayal into liberation. Family can be your greatest strength or your heaviest chain. It's up to you to decide which. If this resonated, drop a comment, share your own story, or hit that like button. Let's keep the conversation going. Right on.